In 1933, the United States was deep in the Great Depression. The economy was in turmoil, and many people were struggling to make ends meet. Amid this hardship, a new kind of criminal began to capture the nation's attention. Bold outlaws who defied the law in pursuit of fortune and notoriety. One such figure was George "Machine Gun" Kelly, a name that would soon become infamous across the country. George Kelly Barnes, known later as Machine Gun Kelly, was not always a notorious gangster. Born in Memphis, Tennessee in 1895, he came from a respectable family and had opportunities for a different life. However, the allure of easy money and the excitement of the underworld drew him into a life of crime. Starting with small-time bootlegging during Prohibition, he gradually became involved in more serious offences. Kelly's criminal activities escalated as he joined the ranks of bank robbers and kidnappers who roamed the country during this era. His use of the Thompson submachine gun, a weapon that symbolised the gangster culture of the time, earned him his infamous nickname. It was a moniker that the media embraced, turning him into a larger-than-life figure. The height of Kelly's criminal career came with the kidnapping of Charles Urschel, a wealthy oil tycoon from Oklahoma City. This bold abduction and the hefty ransom demand shook the nation and put Kelly at the top of the FBI's most wanted list. The crime was meticulously planned, but it set off a nationwide manhunt that would eventually lead to his downfall. This is the story of George "Machine Gun" Kelly, a tale of ambition, crime, and the relentless pursuit of justice. We will explore his early life, the choices that led him down a dangerous path, and the significant impact he had on law enforcement practices. Through this journey, we aim to understand the man behind the legend and the legacy he left in American history. On a warm Saturday evening, July 22, 1933, Charles F. Urschel and his wife were enjoying a quiet night at their Oklahoma City home. They were playing a friendly game of bridge with their close friends, Mr. and Mrs. Walter R. Jarrett, on the screen porch. The serene atmosphere was suddenly shattered at 11:15 p.m. when two armed men burst through the screen door. One carried a machine gun, the other brandished a pistol. The intruders demanded to know which of the two men was Mr. Urschel. Receiving no answer, one of them declared, "Well, we will take both of them." They warned the women not to call for help and escorted Charles and Walter to their car. The kidnappers forced them into the back of a Chevrolet sedan and sped away into the night. As they drove, the kidnappers tried to confirm the identity of their target. After some time, they realized Walter was not the man they wanted. Approximately 12 miles outside the city, after turning onto a dirt road parallel to the 23rd Street Highway, they stopped near a small bridge. They took $50 from Walter's wallet and released him, cautioning him not to reveal the direction they were headed. The car then disappeared into the darkness, with Charles still captive. Back at the Urschel residence, Mrs. Urschel acted swiftly despite her shock. Following official advice, she immediately telephoned J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI. Special agents were dispatched to Oklahoma City to begin an extensive investigation into the kidnapping. Meanwhile, Charles was subjected to a grueling ordeal. The kidnappers blindfolded him and drove for hours, but he remained alert. He noted the smells of oil fields, the sounds of pumping equipment, and changes in the road's texture. His keen observations would later prove crucial. This harrowing event thrust Charles Urschel into a dangerous game orchestrated by George "Machine Gun" Kelly and his gang. The kidnapping not only terrorized the Urschel family, but also captured national attention, highlighting the growing boldness of criminals during that era. It set off an intense manhunt and marked a pivotal moment in the fight against organized crime. George "Machine Gun" Kelly and his accomplices planned the abduction of Charles Urschel with precision. Knowing Urschel's routine and wealth, they chose a moment when he was most vulnerable. relaxing at home with friends. By invading the Urschel residence armed and masked, they instilled fear and ensured compliance. After seizing Urschel, they blindfolded him to prevent him from identifying routes or locations. They switched cars to evade trackers and took indirect roads to avoid law enforcement. Communication with Urschel's associates was done through detailed ransom notes with strict instructions, minimizing the risk of interception. Their methodical approach demonstrated a high level of criminal sophistication. Mrs. Urschel acted without hesitation. She immediately contacted J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, following official advice for such emergencies. Special agents were swiftly dispatched to Oklahoma City to begin a comprehensive investigation. They gathered all available information, though many leads were false or unhelpful. Walter Jarrett's return provided crucial details. He recounted the route taken, noting they had driven northeast of the city before he was released. His insights helped narrow down possible locations where the kidnappers might have taken Charles. The FBI's rapid response and coordination marked a significant step in the pursuit of the culprits. Several days after the kidnapping, a package arrived for J.G. Catlett, a close friend of Charles Urschel. Inside were 2 letters, one from Urschel himself and another from the kidnappers. The note demanded $200,000 in used $20 bills, along with strict instructions for the money drop. The letter warned against any attempts at deception, threatening that Urschel's life depended on following their plan to the letter. The instructions were precise. The money was to be thrown from a train near a designated signal, with no communication allowed with authorities. The ransom demand was now in motion, with the FBI quietly observing. The dramatic capture of George "Machine Gun" Kelly took place on the morning of September the 26th, 1933, at a residence in Memphis, Tennessee. After months of evading law enforcement, Kelly and his wife, Kathryn, were hiding at the home of a friend, unaware that the FBI had tracked them down. A team of special agents, led by local police, moved in before dawn, surrounding the house and ensuring there would be no escape. As agents approached, tension filled the air. Kelly, startled by the commotion, attempted to grab a weapon but quickly realized he was outnumbered and had no way out. According to accounts, he raised his hands and, in a moment of surrender, allegedly uttered the now famous words, "Don't shoot, G-men." His surrender marked the culmination of an extensive manhunt, ending one of the most intense episodes in the FBI's early history. The capture of Kelly was a significant moment for law enforcement. Not only did it mark the downfall of one of America's most notorious criminals, but it also solidified the FBI's growing reputation as a formidable force. The arrest highlighted the Bureau's use of new investigative techniques and cemented J. Edgar Hoover's authority in the fight against organized crime. The trial of George "Machine Gun" Kelly and his accomplices began swiftly after his capture. Held in Oklahoma City, the courtroom was filled with spectators eager to witness the downfall of one of America's most feared criminals. The key evidence against Kelly was the testimony of Charles Urschel, the victim of Kelly's kidnapping, whose keen observations during captivity allowed the FBI to track down the gang's hideout. Additionally, the FBI's methodical tracking of the ransom money further sealed Kelly's fate, presenting undeniable proof of his involvement. Kelly, along with his wife Kathryn, was convicted on October the 12th, 1933. Both were sentenced to life imprisonment for the kidnapping of Urschel, a harsh but fitting punishment for the notorious crime. George Kelly was sent to the infamous Alcatraz prison, where he would serve his sentence alongside other notorious criminals. Kathryn, who had been instrumental in the plot, was also sentenced to life, marking her as one of the few women at the time to receive such a severe sentence. Kelly's accomplices, including Albert Bates and members of Kathryn's family who had sheltered them, were also apprehended and given lengthy prison terms. The trial not only marked the end of Kelly's criminal career, but also devastated his family and accomplices, forever linking their names to his infamous crimes. Born George Kelly Barnes in 1895, Kelly grew up in a relatively stable and respectable family in Memphis, Tennessee. He attended local schools and, for a time, led a fairly unremarkable life. However, Kelly's early exposure to the excitement and profits of the bootlegging world during Prohibition set him on a different path. The quick cash and freedom of criminal life were tempting, and he soon found himself involved in illegal alcohol distribution, marking his initial foray into organized crime. Psychologically, Kelly was a complex figure. Despite his later reputation as a ruthless criminal, many who knew him claimed that he wasn't naturally violent or ambitious. His infamous persona, as some historians argue, was largely shaped by his wife, Kathryn. She encouraged him to embrace a more aggressive image, even buying him his first machine gun and giving him the nickname Machine Gun Kelly. This gave him a fearsome public reputation, but behind the scenes, Kelly was said to be less the hardened gangster and more a man trying to live up to the persona crafted for him. Kelly's vulnerabilities, his desire for recognition and perhaps insecurity about his criminal prowess, made him susceptible to Kathryn's influence. Publicly, he was seen as a cold-blooded gangster, but in reality, Kelly may have been more of a puppet, driven by the ambitions of the others around him. The media played a huge role in elevating George Machine Gun Kelly to the status of an infamous criminal. The moniker Machine Gun was as much a product of sensational journalism as it was of Kelly himself. Reporters latched onto his use of the Thompson submachine gun, portraying him as a dangerous, larger-than-life figure. This narrative, combined with the drama of the Urschel kidnapping, captivated the American public, who were eager to follow stories of bold criminals during the desperate times of the Great Depression. Kelly's exploits inspired several books, films, and even songs, further cementing his place in American folklore. Movies such as Machine Gun Kelly, 1958, immortalized his persona, though these depictions often blurred the line between fact and fiction. In reality, Kelly was likely less skilled with the Thompson than the media suggested, with some accounts stating that his fearsome image was largely cultivated by his wife, Kathryn. This myth-making helped to create the legend of Machine Gun Kelly, but it also obscured the truth. While he was certainly a notorious figure, his real-life criminal abilities and leadership were often exaggerated. Kelly's tale became a symbol of the lawlessness of the era, but much of his reputation was a media creation. George Kelly didn't operate alone. His wife, Kathryn Kelly, was his closest partner in crime, and she was pivotal in shaping his gangster image. It was Kathryn who bought him his first machine gun and gave him the nickname Machine Gun, pushing him further into a life of high-profile crime. Together, they navigated the underworld with a degree of calculated ambition, drawing on the support of other criminals and corrupt officials. One of Kelly's most important accomplices was Albert L. Bates, a seasoned criminal with a long history of bank robberies. Bates was crucial in orchestrating the kidnapping of Charles Urschel and helped Kelly in the logistics of the ransom operation. The couple also relied on family members, such as Kathryn's mother, who provided them with shelter while they were on the run. However, the tight-knit nature of their criminal network also had its weaknesses. Betrayal and fear of being caught sowed seeds of discord. As the FBI closed in on them, loyalty wavered, and some members of their gang began to crack under pressure. These alliances, once crucial for their criminal success, became liabilities as the law caught up with Kelly and his associates. The capture and conviction of George Machine Gun Kelly marked a turning point in law enforcement's fight against organized crime. Kelly's criminal activities, especially the high-profile kidnapping of Charles Urschel, highlighted the need for federal agencies like the FBI to develop more advanced investigative techniques. His capture showed the increasing effectiveness of coordinated efforts between law enforcement agencies, a practice that became a cornerstone in later criminal investigations. Kelly's story also serves as a cautionary tale about the seductive allure of quick riches through crime. His life of infamy was ultimately short-lived, and the heavy consequences of his actions impacted not only him, but his family and accomplices as well. In many ways, Kelly's downfall underscores the destructive power of ambition when channeled into criminal pursuits. Today, the legacy of Machine Gun Kelly continues to be a symbol of the reckless pursuit of power and wealth. His tale offers parallels to modern criminal enterprises, reminding us that the combination of desperation, crime, and public notoriety can lead to devastating outcomes, both for individuals and society at large. George Machine Gun. Kelly's life was one defined by bold ambition, criminal exploits, and ultimate downfall. From his early days as a bootlegger to his role as one of America's most notorious gangsters, Kelly's story illustrates the dangerous allure of crime and the inevitable consequences that follow. His kidnapping of Charles Urschel was the pinnacle of his career, but it was also the turning point that led to his capture and life imprisonment. In the end, Kelly's mythic image was as much a product of media hype as his own actions. While he may have lived a life of crime, his story reminds us of the futility of such pursuits. His downfall serves as a reminder of the ever-present hand of justice and the power of law enforcement to bring even the most infamous criminals to justice. Kelly's life leaves us with a crucial question. How many others, lured by the promise of wealth and notoriety, have followed similar paths only to meet the same fate? As we reflect on his legacy, we are reminded of the thin line between legend and reality, and the lasting impact one individual can have on history. If you want to learn more about the lives of other infamous criminals and the lessons their stories teach us, be sure to subscribe to Grave Haven for more gripping tales from the underworld.